Looking for clarity and confidence when it comes to decision making for your business? You've come to the right place. You're now listening to the Atomic Business Coaching Podcast.
Steve DeAngelis, how did storytelling become so important to you?
Wow. All right, jumping right in. Let's see. Storytelling, I guess, became important to me because I was watching so many people try to do that, right? Try to put a story out there and one that makes sense for them or their brand or whatever it is they were trying to do. And in this world that we're in right now, everyone is trying to tell a story through their social media accounts, whether it's for business or for themselves as an individual. And I think people have been struggling specifically on the business side on how to tell their story properly to speak to the right people. And so how it became important to me is I started doing it and realized that people needed help with that. It's just that simple.
So since it's so simple, why is it so complicated for so many other people? Why is it such a desire for people to tell a story, but when they want to go out there and tell it, it really becomes almost paralyzing to so many people?
I think that sharing your true story is terrifying. It doesn't matter who you are. I mean, if you're an actor, you're not telling your story. You're portraying someone else. But in the world of social media, the story that you're telling is you. And that fear of being accepted, being rejected, it's a real terrifying fear. I mean, I feel it myself every single day when I'm putting our stories out there. And that, I think that's really what just holds people back, is that fear of like acceptance, that fear of, am I going to mess this up? Am I doing this the wrong way? Am I telling the wrong story? I think people are just scared that of what other people are going to think of them and not of what they think of themselves.
Yeah, I would agree. And, you know, you've made a career out of helping people overcome that. What the people who you've seen really cross that bridge and go from that anxiety and fear and like, I can't do it, to, wow, they almost do it with ease. It almost seems like they've been doing it their whole life. What have you seen in those people that have allowed them to cross that bridge?
It's just full acceptance. It's just full acceptance of being able to let go of that fear and just dive full in and give it their all, give it their full attention, give it the respect and the time that it deserves. I don't think they have any like relevant skills that are better than someone else out there. We've seen people who were terrible in front of the camera become great storytellers themselves. And it doesn't come from one skill set or another. It just comes from taking the time to do it. I'm a believer myself in that. Like I've said this, I actually said this to my dad a couple of weeks ago, that like, if I decided I've got a drum set in my basement that I never play, but like one day I have this irrational or maybe rational thought that like, if I decided to become the best drummer in the world, I could do that. Like I have to just go play the drums and do it more often, and like start going on tour, start playing with a group. You don't know much about the Long Island music scene, but I do from my background with Statfest. There's a lack of drummers out there. Like I wouldn't have any problem getting work if I learned how to play the drums better. And so I just have this belief that if I put time into something, I can become really good at it, better than most people. And I think that applies for most people. I think most people hold themselves back from doing that thing. So if it's telling your story and getting good at it, I don't think there's a particular skill set other than openness that lends itself to letting someone tell their story better than somebody else.
Yeah, being open, having that grit, or maybe discipline, right? Because discipline really is doing the things you hate to do, but doing them like you love them. I think Mike Tyson said that of all people. Mm-hmm. But that's really what it is. And, you know, yeah, if you're going to be vulnerable enough to tell your story and let go of all the fear, anxiety, and everything else, you're going to have to do things you don't want to do. But if it's going to come across in the story as you love it, you have to do it like you love it as well. So that must be very difficult. So I'm curious, you've told so many stories of your own, of other people's, clients. What is the best story you've ever had the chance to tell?
Oh man, I need a minute to think about that. So I guess the best story that I ever had the chance to tell was, I guess to me, right? It's subjective.
Yeah.
Looking back at it, it's not the best story overall in terms of like how it was written or how it was crafted. But the story behind the story and how it came to be is the thing that connects with me. Is back in, I want to say 2019. Between 2019 and 2021, somewhere in that range. I feel like it was pre-COVID. So I'm going to say 2019. My friend, Tommy Nickel, who is an incredibly creative individual, had an idea to film a movie. He was just out of college, just finished up. Like, he was looking for a way to break into the television world and the film world. And he thought that the best way that he could do that was to take his community of people, which I was a part of, and create something original. And he was driving past a roller rink in Seaford called United Skates, which, if you grew up on Long Island, you know United Skates. You probably went to 4 or 5 birthday parties there. And the sign was, the UNI on the sign was out. So it just said Ted Skates on the sign. And he walked in the door of my friend Joe Rizzo's house, and we're all sitting at the dining room table, and he goes, I want to make a movie, and it's going to be called Ted Skates. And we were like, that's really cool. Let's do it. And then a week later, he walks in the same door and throws a script down on the table and says, wow, this is Ted Skates. He and Joe had written it together, and he started to pull on the resources that he had. He went to, before he even wrote the script, he went to United Skates and said, if I write something, can I film this here? Which was really smart because he could have wasted a lot of time. And they said, yeah, of course. We close at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock. You can film all night and rent the space from us. And so Tommy, being the creative individual that he is, and he was getting into like improv and stand-up comedy at the time, he threw a fundraiser, which was a stand-up comedy show at the bar right outside of United Skates, where he had, we promoted and got like 50 people there. Everyone bought tickets, did raffles. So he wound up raising like $2,500 to film an entire movie with. And
big budget.
Huge, yeah, ultra low budget film. He went through all the proper steps though, and like organized it with SAG and got all the proper paperwork, and he got actors. He auditioned people for these roles that were unpaid. Some of them got their travel paid for because they were coming out to Long Island from New York City. And he got me and a couple of other people to help out on the production crew. And he got this director of photography who was still a college student at Five Towns. So he had access to all the film equipment from Five Towns. Wow. And made a movie in 16 days.
Wow.
Overnight stuff. So everyone would go to work during the day, meet up at 9 o'clock at Ted Skates as all these people were finishing up their nights of skating. And they left us one person overnight. I think they rented the space to us for like $1,500 for the 2 weeks, just to make some extra money overnight. They had a kid sitting there in the corner who would turn on and off machines as we needed the noise to go off. And in 16 days, we made a movie.
Wow.
And it was like one of the best experiences of my life to realize that you didn't need everything to be perfect in order to make it happen, right? He just focused on the story. Before we even started this, you mentioned your friend Connor had said to you, it's not always about how it looks. Like, yeah, you want things to look nice, but the content and the context itself is the most important. And so, sure, we didn't have these giant $250,000 cameras that were modular and built together. We had the equipment from Five Towns. But we had a lot of people that wanted to make it happen. and he made it happen out of nothing. From idea to finished movie was probably a few months. And then he had to spend some extra time editing, of course. But from that, he then took that movie and put it on Amazon Prime. So you can go buy it right now on Amazon Prime. It's there. Everyone's got their credits on IMDb. It was done by the book. A lot of these actors, it became part of their reel and something that they get to feather in their cap, something they get to do and talk about for the rest of their lives. But for me, it was just like an eye-opening experience that we could make anything happen that we wanted to happen. Like, we had the people to do it, and we were, 24, 25. Tommy was probably 22 or 23.
That's really a great story, man. It's a testament to, what I do in my businesses. And it's, you can do literally whatever you want. You just have to commit to it and do it every day, regardless of the obstacles that'll get in your way. And I'm sure you guys had tons of obstacles, so it's like, wow, that's a great story. So, you own a video production company and you mainly help people tell their stories, and most of it is done through social media. So I'm curious, why did you choose video as the format to tell people's stories?
Video is, it's real. There's no hiding behind the camera. Like, when you're in front of the camera, it's you, right? You have to tell your story. I think the way that social media has been moving, video became incredibly powerful in an incredibly short period of time compared to, some of the written word or the photos that were very popular on Instagram and some of those other platforms, where it became very easy to reach a lot of people with your message through video.
And there are still so many people that need their story told that are kind of adverse to video, whether it's from what we talked about in the beginning, they're just scared to tell their story, or barrier of entry of I need equipment or cost, or like, what are you seeing in the landscape of, let's talk specifically for business owners. So what are you seeing in the landscape of people that are having a tough time moving into video content? What is typically the reasons they struggle with getting themselves to that point?
It's that fear that we talked about earlier of everyone. That's one of the things, at least, is the fear of acceptance or being judged from the outside. But there's another deeper thing to that, which is people often wonder, like, why should people care about me or what I have to say? We have people who are in boring professions, right? They're accountants, and they look at themselves as, I'm in this boring profession. Why do people care about accounting tips? But there's a business owner out there, me, who needs those tips, who needs that help. There's someone out there who needs the information that you have. It's why people hire accountants, right?
Right.
Accountants are never going to go out of style. They're never going to go out of business. They're going to change over the years, as everything does, but that's always needed for your business. So it's the fear of showing up and being accepted, but also the fear of, like, why does anyone care about this?
That's a good point,
And I think that's a good question to ask yourself, right? Because I've had the opposite come to me and say, I want to do videos. And when I say why, which is always the first question, like, what's the outcome that you want from doing these videos? Some of them are just like, well, I just know my competition's doing it and I need to do it, which is fine. Like, showing up will definitely produce you the result. But if you're a broker for, real estate, if you're a real estate broker, like the person I spoke to last night, who wants to do it because he knows he needs to do it, but doesn't have an end goal in mind, it's a little bit more difficult to make a decision on what to do and how to go about it. I asked him, like, are you trying to attract new agents to join your team and your brokerage? Are you trying to sell more houses? Are you trying to just become known in your community. Like there's a bunch of different goals. And I know I went off topic here and I'm losing the thread completely, but the way you approach it can change the way, or your goal can change the way that we approach things. I don't know if that answered the question at all.
No, it does answer the question. It's a good insight because, you know, we were asking why did you choose video, and video is probably the most impactful way to do that right now. And then I liked how you pivoted over to why are people actually doing it though? You know, what's the reason and what's the holdup? And the holdup is, I would definitely agree with you, is people, there's these opposite ends of the spectrum where I believe most people live in those fringes, is that like everybody cares about me or nobody cares about me. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, it's usually the result is the opposite for those people. You know, when like nobody cares about me, it's like actually, wow, people do. Or the other side, it's like everybody cares about me. And like, how come nobody loves me? Like, because you're doing it for yourself. You're not telling your story. You're telling what you think people want to hear, and you're typically wrong about that.
One
so
thing
it's very interesting.
That I think is important here is people are watching. The people that you know and the people that you've met, the people who are following you, even if you have 100 followers on Instagram, which I believe everyone can get to 100 followers on Instagram just from the people that they know. People are watching what you're doing. They may not be liking the post. They may not be commenting on the post, but they're seeing it, right? Like we work with this really exciting brand, 8Well, who you know, TJ and Tyler from 8Well, and they just announced that acquired another gym. They acquired a second location in a neighboring town, and out of the woodwork came all of these people. I mean, their videos are getting views, their videos are getting some likes, but everyone's watching. They're just not engaging with it. And when we put out a really exciting piece of news, hey, we've got this thing, 300 likes, 150 comments, all these people coming in to congratulate them. What business owners don't realize is those people are watching everything else as well. They're seeing everything else as well. It's just not like a thing that they feel reacted to, or like compelled to react to.
Right.
They're seeing it. They're internalizing it. They're seeing your face. I mean, I go through those phases. I have gone through those phases of putting out content, and then I get busy, and then we end up working with, I stopped doing it because I'm stuck in the work. And what I realize is when I come back and I start telling my story, people start talking to me more. People start reaching out. I start building those connections. And it's eye-opening every time I go through it. Because like I went on a meeting the other day with a woman who's starting up a new networking group, and she seemed really cool. And I just wanted to talk to her and learn, hey, how can I get involved? How can I be there for a meeting and see what it is you guys are building here? And she opened the meeting by saying, Steve, first off, I love the content that you're putting out there with MMP. And she listed her 3 favorite videos that she went through. Like, she was very prepared. She did a great job to sell me on joining this group. But I appreciated her preparation. I appreciated that she went in and said, like, I love the video that you did on delegation. I love the video that you did on not taking shortcuts. And she explained why she liked those things. It was a really cool moment for me because, like, I don't know this woman. She wasn't leaving comments and engaging with my posts, but I found her through social media, thought what she was doing was cool, and thought I could help or be a part of the group and help people who were there, and just wanted to have a conversation. And then she went and learned a whole bunch about me before I had that conversation with her.
That's cool.
It's just so people don't realize the power still to this day, even though it's so popular.
Yeah, that's the thing is, there's no like, oh, you've missed a boat type thing. It's perpetual, storytelling and video is here to stay, folks. I've known you for almost 5 years now. And
has it been 5 years?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And I've known you in a variety of different situations. I've spent time with you in positive things and stressful things and negative things. And one of the things I've noticed about you is you have this very unique ability to stay extremely calm in chaotic situations. Like, where does that come from for you?
I mean, maybe it appears that way, and it doesn't feel that way.
It certainly appears that way.
Maybe I'm just a good actor. I think I actually did have this conversation with someone on my team yesterday or the day before. And it came from a compliment that you paid me on my birthday when you gave me a call, which was like, you're doing all these crazy things and from the outside looking in, it looks calm, right? It looks like, sure, you messed up, you make these mistakes, you learn from them, but it looks like you have a handle on it. And I think that comes from being put in those stressful situations and always coming out on top, always coming out better than I went into it. I mean, you were actually at my wedding, and a couple months ago, we watched back our wedding video, and my dad had a great speech during the wedding. And he said something that sticks with me and that I remember from that, which was, it seems like he's like, for whatever reason, I have the best luck ever. Like, I always seem to come out on top, no matter what happens to me. And he was saying it in the context of, this is a wedding and families are coming together, and I have all these little angels on my shoulder, and they're right here. It's my family, and they take care of me, and things always end up better because I'm surrounded by this great community of people. And that's applicable, I think, to a lot of things. I mean, in no situation in my life has stressing to the point of like getting sick or not feeling good helped me in any which way. It's happened. I've stressed out to the point where I've burnt out and felt like shit and, you know, slept it away for a couple days in a depression almost. But coming out of it and just doing the thing has always led me to a positive result. Even if the outcome in that moment wasn't positive. Right. Like, it's always been a learning experience. So I think just being able to realize that in the moment, which is difficult a lot of the time, and I struggle with it myself, but being able to, like, in hindsight, look back at it and say, that was a stressful situation, but we handled it, we did the hard things. That's a hugely powerful tool. I think.
Yeah, that part about the community as well that your dad had mentioned at the wedding is you've always been part of communities, many of them, whether you have been the facilitator or you've been a participant, or even like you just mentioned that story with the woman in the networking group. There's a lot to be said about doing things with other people. There's a great platitude that says you can go faster alone, but you can go much further together. And it's very true. You know, I've been involved with groups with you, and I've run many of my own. I've been a part of others. And every time I do stuff in a group, in a community, where there's a commonality, a common goal, a common mission, a common care for one another, I've always come out much better than I thought I would. And that's a good explanation of how you're able to stay so calm.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the one other thing is I've done these, like, coming into this career, coming into this world of video production, I took a really weird path to get there. And I've worked a lot of these, like, weird jobs and had a lot of these weird experiences where, like, I was working in a kitchen for a catering company in high school and college during my summers. I was in these, like, high pressure situations with event production at these off-Broadway theaters in Manhattan that I was always in these, like, really cool rooms with really famous people, like the Gary V. I mic'd up Gary V. I mic'd up Billy Porter from Broadway and all these different people. And I was just in these rooms sitting with these insanely famous people in these high pressure situations. Idina Menzel spit out a mouthful of mouthwash at my friend on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan when we were doing the sound for the Saks Fifth Avenue, like, window show that happens every year. It was like just these fun things that were happening that are non-traditional jobs, I would say. I was always working, like, odd hours and weekends, and to get to a place now where I'm still working some odd hours and some weekends, but, like, it's not every weekend. It's not 22-hour shifts overnight for the, you know, America coming to the Tillis Center, like, and setting up that show. It's easier than that. And so the high pressure situations that I'm in now are almost easier than what I've done in the past.
Well, it's a good insight because, you know, I love Joe Rogan, and he always talks about how the reason that he works out so hard And, because a lot of his guests, like Adam Sandler was on this thing recently. Like, I wish I looked like you. And
just watching this morning.
It was a good episode. I liked they started at the beginning a lot about Long Island. So I was like hooked in. So he always says, he's like, yeah, I love that. And it's good exercise and everything. But the main reason that he does that is because he believes that if he puts himself through hell and these stressful situations and these nearly impossible tasks to do that are going to mentally and physically tax him, that nobody else can do that to him for the rest of the day. Like, it's just, you can't do worse than what I did. And that's why I like the insight you're saying, because you put yourself through and you had the opportunity to be involved with these really high pressure, chaotic, very deadline oriented and importantly vital things to get done, that now it's like, seems stressful, but not compared to what I used to do. Mm-hmm. So it speaks volumes to what people should strive for in their experiences. And if you're ever in a position where you have an opportunity where you're scared shitless, you should probably do it. Like, you're going to be better for it. Yeah, you may screw it all up, and you may fail and you may look like a fool, but just that time.
You said that to me years ago, or you said something similar to me when you were putting together Project 2740, which is a group that I was a part of with you and another community of people that I'm still connected with that care about me and I care about them. And you invited me to join that group and you were like, just think about it. And I called you back when I made the decision to join and I said, I'm really scared, so I feel like I need to do it. And you were like, good, that's the right answer.
It is. It's something I have ingrained in my son. He had a tough time when he was growing up, just socializing and everything else. And he's done a variety of things where he was very, very scared. And I said, Tyler, the reason you're so scared is because it matters. What you put into it and what comes out of it actually matters to you. If it didn't, you wouldn't be scared at all. And he started perceiving fear and anxiety and nervousness in a very different way. And now the things he's accomplished by 12 years old is just, it's mind blowing. I always tell him, I'm like, my gosh, I'm a little jealous of all the stuff you've done. It makes me so proud of him, but I don't know where I got it from or where I heard that from or who taught it to me, but that's what it means is when you have that anxiety, when you have that fear, the thing you're about to do actually matters. Like, you care about it. Mm-hmm. It's a good way of looking at that. So you've become a very successful business owner and recently got married. Like you said, I was at your wedding. You own your own home in one of the most expensive places to live in the world, Long Island, New York. You're only 30 years old. Like, how did you make all of this possible?
I don't really think I did much of it, honestly. It is the community. My wife is a huge supporter of mine who always tries to bring out the best in me and who so far has been succeeding in that, I think. I don't know, maybe I don't think it's too much humility, honestly. I think that's real. Like, I don't think I've done too much to this point. I've just surrounded myself with really good people who have always told me that I can do these things. It's just as simple as being in that environment.
I like simple. All right, so I have two more questions for you.
Sorry.
No problem. So, what's next for Steve DeAngelis?
Oh, man. That's a broad question. What's next? When's this coming out?
A few weeks to a month.
Okay. What's next? I think enjoying what I'm doing more. Not putting the pressure on myself. You said it to me yesterday. Nothing that we're doing really matters that much. It feels like it does every day. But that's the same as the person who's like, oh, everyone's watching me or nobody's watching me, right? It's in the extremes. Yeah. So it probably lies somewhere in the middle where it does matter a little bit, but it definitely doesn't matter as much as I put on myself every single day. Right. So I want to find that zone of genius that Tom talks about sometimes and continue to give and keep just doing things that help people and enjoy it. Because honestly, the last, we'll call it 6 months to a year, like I haven't really been enjoying it too much. I've been in a mode of like putting all this pressure on myself, a mode of like really trying to push to grow. And what's come from that has been the opposite. Has been, we get some growth in terms of like money coming in, but then did it wrong because it was just like pushing it and pushing it. Now I'm focused on doing it right and enjoying it while I'm doing it, and just making that small shift in the last month or so. I can see the change on the horizon. I see all the things happening in the right way. And so that's what's next, is just doing things for the right reasons, enjoying them a little more.
I would say that's one and the same. If you do things for the right reasons, you will enjoy them. All right, so last question. I ask the same question to everybody who comes on LinkedIn LinkUps. So there are about 8 billion people on this planet. If you knew that every single one of them would hear a message, what would that message be from Steve DeAngelis?
Man, I want it to be something so insightful and huge. I don't know. It's probably "Let's go Mets."
I like it. Let's leave it there. Let's go Mets. This is our year, Steve. This is our year. Well, at least in April it will be. Yeah, in April. All right, Steve.
This is our year.
I appreciate having you. This is a good episode. Where can they follow you?
MP Creations on all social media platforms. Steve.DeAngelis _ on Instagram. That's the best way to get in touch with us.
See you soon, pal.
Thanks.